At 8 weeks old, Tess arrived in aged care with the confidence of a creature who had never read a policy document. She was a cavoodle puppy, all curls, paws, optimism, and ears that seemed to have been attached in a hurry. She had come to be trained as a support dog, though in Tess's opinion everyone supported her. Doors opened, voices softened, hands appeared from nowhere to stroke her head. People who had been quiet all morning suddenly remembered entire conversations, most of them beginning with, "Well, aren't you beautiful?" Tess took this as proof of excellent management. Her main duty was to spend her days in Reggie's room. Reg was her master, her person, her place of belonging. She brought him puppy joy in the practical way puppies do, by turning up, being warm, looking pleased with herself, and behaving as though every new day was the best invention humans had ever managed. She learned the routine of his room. She learned where to sit. She learned when to play. She learned that older hands might move slowly, but they still knew how to love a dog properly. In between her time with Reg, Tess visited other residents who needed puppy loving. This was not written on any official form, but Tess understood it perfectly. Some people needed a soft head under their hand. Some needed a reason to smile. Some needed a visitor who did not mind repetition, tears, silence, or being called by the wrong dog's name. Tess minded none of it. She considered herself highly qualified. By night, Tess went home with her owner. Her owner had also been living in aged care and had reached a clear conclusion. She could not stand living in an institution any longer. When she was told the only way out of aged care was in a box, she took this as advice, not a warning. So she ordered 25 large packing removalist boxes. This was possibly not what the speaker had intended, but country women of a certain age can be very literal when it suits them. The boxes arrived. Things were folded, sorted, packed, argued with, reconsidered, and packed again. Tess supervised by standing in empty boxes, removing useful items, and occasionally sitting on the very thing most needed next. This is an ancient support dog technique known as emotional obstruction. Together, Tess and her owner escaped. Not dramatically. There were no searchlights, no sirens, no headlines saying elderly woman and cavoodle flea facility with linen and teapot. There were simply boxes, determination, and the stubborn belief that independence was still worth the bother. They set up home not far from the aged care where Reg stayed. Close enough to visit, close enough to remain part of his days, close enough for Tess to keep doing what she had begun as a tiny puppy, bringing love into the room without asking permission, from sorrow. For the next 3 years, Tess visited Reg regularly. She came in with her curly coat and bright eyes, carrying the news of the outside world. News such as, the garden had smells, the cottage had corners, someone had dropped toast, and independence was going rather well, thank you. Reg changed during those years. Time does that. Illness does that. The need for continual multi-person care can separate two people at the end of a long marriage and friendship in ways nobody chooses. But closeness is not only measured by sharing a roof. Sometimes closeness is a chair beside a bed. Sometimes it is a familiar voice. Sometimes it is a small dog placed carefully where a tired hand can reach her. Tess adapted because dogs are better at accepting the present than humans are. When Reg could sit up, she played. When he lay down, she settled beside him. When he was too weary for much at all, she offered the quietest version of herself, which for Tess was a considerable professional achievement. Outside those visits, life at the cottage opened around her. A cottage garden, paths to patrol, birds to misunderstand, leaves to chase with great purpose. There was room for independence, for art, for writing, for cups of tea, for aging disgracefully, and for pretending that tap water counted as a beauty regime. Tess approved of the cottage. It had possibilities. It had smells. It had fewer institutional corridors and far more garden. And that mattered, because this story is not only about what was lost, it is about what was kept. Love was kept. Visiting was kept. Laughter was kept, sometimes in small and ridiculous forms. The right to order 25 removalist boxes and make a life beyond expectation. That was kept too. Tess began as an 8-week-old puppy in aged care. She became a support dog, a visitor, a comfort, a witness, and a small curly reminder that joy does not always arrive politely. Sometimes it comes bouncing in, chews the corner of the plan, sits in the packing box, and helps you escape. If you enjoyed this true Wren Cottage story, please subscribe and watch the following Wren Cottage audiobooks: Gentle Stories of Later Life, Second Chance.